Yeah, hello everyone. First, I have a question because I realize not everyone has used Flutter before. Can you put your hands if you have like worked with Flutter in any kind of form before?
You work with Flutter before Flutter.
Okay, just to make sure. And you have never worked with Flutter before? Put your hands up. Okay, that's interesting. Anyway, I will be telling a lot of things today. Most of them actually are not Flutter specific. So if you have experience with native development and also just looking forward to trying your own thing, I think all of these will be useful. So don't sweat it. But yeah, also hope we will have some more questions during Q&A. So in case you, yeah, I'm starting to babble. Sorry, never mind. Anyway, as Ahmed said, my name is Daria, but actually most of the people that know me, like my friends, my family, know me by a different name, which is Dasha, because that's the short version of my name in my native language. And a better coincidence is that even though we know this character as Dora the Explorer. And by the way, put your hands up if you know this character. Okay, thanks. You will understand the references because this could have flopped big time. Anyway, so I chose the right community. So yeah, and if this movie is translated to my native language, and the name of this character is also Dasha, and she's translated as Dasha the Traveler. So I have this connection with this little girl for a while now. You can call it obsession, but actually I don't remember that much about the movies except that she went on different journeys and she had a lot of things to conquer. And there was also Swiper. So she had a lot of problems, but she had fun in the process. And this really reminded me of my journey as an indie developer. So this is what we're going to do today. Have fun on my journey as an indie developer. And a little bit about myself. I've been born long, long ago in a country far, far away called Latvia, or maybe if you speak Spanish, you know it like Lithuania, because probably most people don't even know where this country is, because yeah, it's not one of the popular ones. I started my developer journey as a native Android developer almost 10 years ago. I said I was born long, long ago. And then I switched to Flutter in 2019 and never looked back because, first of all, Flutter is cross platform, and second, because Flutter is awesome. Then, a milestone in my career was 2021. First of all, because this is when I launched my first indie app, which is called Bunny Search, and we will talk about it later. And also when I published my first article and gave my first talk. And then I've done much more of that again, many more articles, many more talks, involvement with the community, and those have been like one of the best years of my life. And that's how I eventually have become recognized as a Google developer expert. And also wrote a book called Flutter Design Patterns and Best Practices with two amazing co-authors. And maybe you know one of them because his name is Jaime Blasco, and he gave a workshop just like a couple of weeks ago. And I have this book with me today, one copy. So, and I will give it to the question that I like the most. So, what means like the most? I don't know. We'll see. Depends on the question. So, you can be creative, but I hope it will be nice questions. Anyway, it was all fun and a lot of things I got to experiment with, a lot of challenges. I was working as a Flutter developer and a tech lead in a local Latvian agency. And the way agencies work is that we work with a lot of different client products. So I change product every, I don't know, couple of months. Sometimes there are several products in 1 month as a tech lead because you overview a lot of things. And I had a lot of technical challenges, but at some point it all kind of became a blur, challenge after challenge, kind of the same. And I was feeling lost in my career and not knowing exactly what I want to do next. Like maybe try some product which I can impact not only from technical perspective, but also from product perspective. And before trying any others, people's products, I decided to try my own. And this is how me and my husband launched BB Apps, our company, where we create apps that care for you and the planet. And basically, with our apps, what we want to do is to make people's lives more better, more uh, conscious, more impactful, and yeah, just better lives. So this is what we're trying to do. And this is how my career looks so far. And today I will take you on the journey of BB Apps. And a couple of words about my apps. The first one, Bunny Search, that we launched in 2021, is an app for looking up brands and whether they test their product on animals. So that's why it's called Bunny Search. You search for the bunny logo on the back of the cosmetics product. Next one is a habit tracker. That's boring. Everyone has a habit tracker at this moment. But yeah, the other one is Trigger Journal. That's the name, but actually we're still experimenting with the name. And the idea behind this app is that if you have any bothering condition, which can be mental or can be physiological, like anxiety or depression, or like acne, stomachache, headache, like any kind of condition that is bothering you, but you're not sure what's the source of this botherment, like why it's happening. In this app, you log your condition and you log a lot of potential triggers like food related, life events related, sleep related, basically a bunch of things. And we use AI to analyze those triggers and those conditions and those logs and trying to find a root cause and also give you recommendations, which are not medical advice, by the way. Yeah, so that's one of the apps. And also it has subscriptions, but we will talk about that later. And another one, which is helping me learn Spanish. And probably won't be talking Spanish today, maybe next time. But yeah, it's a language learning app. It's also using AI, and it focuses on learning and more even practicing than learning language in a natural form, like by texting, by speaking, and not by just drilling grammar and vocabulary. And obviously, it also uses AI because it's 2025, and you have to do that. And it also gives you a lot of opportunities. So today, I will be talking mostly about things related to these two apps, technical solutions related to these two apps, mostly because, as I said, they use AI, and also because these are the apps that have paid subscriptions. And as an indie developer, you want subscriptions or any other way to earn money from your applications. So yeah. Yeah, we will go on an exciting journey, and this won't be a tutorial on how to do Firebase or do AI or anything. This is more of a holistic overview, how these things work together, how to find solutions to your problems, and also a couple of things that you will need no matter what you use in your app, but you will need them as an indie developer and an app publisher. And we will also fill this little backpack with useful tools so that by the end of this talk, it's full with things that you can use in your indie apps. And also not indie apps, it works for any kind of apps, so you can also use this at work. And we will start with the roller coaster of AI features. And what you need to know about generative AI APIs in a nutshell is that we have some kind of model. For example, here it's GPT, which can be text-based, it can be audio-based, different kind of models. It can be Gemini, it can be DeepSeek, Claude, whatever. There's a lot of now available. And to this model, you supply a request which has prompt and has some extras like files, audio files, images, databases, whatnot. You submit an API key that unlocks this ability to talk to the model, and you get this API key in your account. And obviously, the model gives you a response, also can be text or other types of format based. And the thing that you need to know about this is that this communication happens in tokens, and out tokens. Also, for some models, these can be minutes or this can be words, so on. But basically, there is type of measurement that depends on how much information you put into and how much information you get out of the model. And this is very important. We will soon see why. And tokens roughly equal how much it says 4 characters in English. And you can also measure tokens in the OpenAI tokenizer platform. For example, Flutter Valencia attendees are awesome. And so our cats is 73 characters, but 21 token. And you need to understand this number to be able to understand how much money you're going to be spending on AI, because AI is not free as an API. Like you can get some free stuff from ChatGPT, but if you're using it as an API in your apps, it's not free, and you're paying for tokens. You're paying for input tokens, you're paying for output tokens, you're paying for cache tokens. Basically, you're paying all of the time. So what we need to remember is that tokens equal money, and API key is the key that unlocks access to tokens and to your money. So it is important to guard this API key. Yeah, that's what I said. And this is important because this impacts what technical solutions we make next. So if you want to use AI on the client side, like client SDK such as Dart OpenAI, Google Gemini one, the Anthropic SDK on the client side, that's cool because it's fast and easy. You plug and play like this library into your Flutter app, you're good to go. It is convenient because there's no context switching. You're doing it all on the Flutter side, but it's not secure because the API key has to be stored on the client side. And anything stored on the client side is inherently not safe. Even if you obfuscate or do whatnot to try and make it harder for the malicious actors, it's still possible to steal it. And if someone steals your API key, they can also steal a lot of your money. So we need to guard it really a lot. On the other side, we have a server-side SDK, which is complex because you kind of have to have your own backends. It probably will be in a different language, a whole lot of infrastructure. Inconvenient because of that. Also secure because it doesn't expose your API key. Everything happens on the server side. And also offers more flexibility, and we will talk about what this means later. So it wouldn't be great if we could have something that has all of the cool things from the client side, but also security and flexibility of the server side? Well, we kind of have. We have a couple of options. One of the options is Firebase Vertex AI SDK, which is a client-side SDK, but doesn't expose an API key to the client. It's fast and easy, convenient to use because, as I said, on the Flutter side, or Android or iOS, or whatever on the client one. And it's secure because it doesn't expose API key. And we will look a little bit closer at this soon. Another one, if you also need the flexibility, you can use Cloud Functions from Firebase. And I have no idea why there's Firebase Cloud Functions for Firebase, but that's the official logo. So there will be a lot of words Firebase there. And Firebase Genkit, which also offer flexibility, but a little less fast and easy and a little less convenient. And we will look at this also soon. So now in our backpack, we have all kinds of AI models which we can use. Now we want to use them securely. So that's where we enter the bridge of backend as a service. What is backend as a service? So how usually things happen? You have a client-side application. It's on the device. In our case, it's a Flutter application. And then we have our own backend. The problem with this own backend is that we need to do it manually. We need to do the infrastructure. We need to do. We need to have the skills for backend and all of those things, or a lot of money to hire people who know backend. So usually this is a lot of hassle. This is where backend as a service kind of things come in, and backend as a service is basically backend functionality offered to you as a service where you don't need to handle the infrastructure. It is handled for you, and you can still use backend functions, which are like remote kind of functions on your client side. So it offers a convenience, but also costs a little bit money, but it depends on the provider and also on how many users you have, what kind of services you have, and so on. For a lot of us, especially as our apps are young and don't have that many users, it's free for a long time. So it's nice problems to have if you have to pay for backend as a service. It means you have a lot of users and you're popular. Anyway, there are many backend as a service providers: Firebase, Pokebase, Apprite, Amazon, Superbase, Microsoft. There's many of them. You can choose the one that you like for your own reasons, because maybe one offers functionality that the other doesn't, or the pricing is better, or you're already using, for example, some products from Amazon or whatnot. I use Firebase, and has anyone here used Firebase before? Okay, we have a couple of people. Any other backend as a service, or have you ever heard about Firebase before? Okay. Okay, I actually was expecting that a lot of more people would hear about Firebase because it's usually best friend of Flutter because it is also backed by Google. So it's a backend as a service provided by Google. And that is one of the important reasons because it is also being very actively developed. New features are being added constantly, and it's also bug fixing and everything. And big community is important because it means that there's a lot of tutorials, a lot of articles covering like documentation, covering edge cases and things that you can do with Firebase. It is used by many apps, so it is stable. It is a perfect fit for Flutter because it is being also developed by Google, and it has a generous free tier. Like you will be using Firebase for free for a long time, unless you have some secret how to grow your app to billions of users really fast. And in that case, I would like to talk to you. And in a nutshell, this is what Firebase is. This is when you open Firebase console on the web, this is how it looks like. So it's just an interface. And it has many features categorized in build, run, and analytics. There's no way we're going to talk about them all today because it's not just a separate talk, it's like a separate course because Firebase is huge. But we will talk about those that are important for our use case of using AI. And first step, we need a database. And Firebase offers different databases. One of them is Firestore. And an important thing about Firestore is that it's a NoSQL cloud database, which means that you don't have tables, but you have documents. And this is how you need to keep this in mind when structuring your schema. So for example, in here, for native Pol, where we have characters, we have a collection characters. This collection has documents, and then each document has a set of fields. And this is kind of example of how a database can look like. Then you can also secure this Firestore with security rules, manage access, make sure that some collections get access only for authorized users or only for specific users with specific IDs or only for admins. So this is how you also make it more secure. And how you use it as an example in a Flutter app, you have packages for every Flutter, for every Firebase service. And yeah, it's super easy. For example, we ask Firebase Firestore.instance. We want the collection of characters. We want only 10 of them, ordered by name, where their language is English. And then we map it as a regular JSON because technically these documents mostly look like JSON. So yeah. If NoSQL database doesn't work for you, Firebase now offers a SQL Cloud database. It's called Firebase Data Connect, and it also now has a Dart SDK, which you can use in your Flutter apps. I have not yet tried this, so I don't have insights, but I'm super excited to try it out because, yeah, SQL databases can be beneficial when you need relations. Okay, step 2, Vertex AI SDK, which I have already mentioned. Vertex AI SDK is also a service provided by Firebase under the section of Gen AI. And under the section Gen AI, we have two types of services. One is Firebase GenKit, which is a server-side SDK. It means that you can't use it on the client side in Flutter. And also Vertex AI SDK, which is a client-side SDK, which you can use in Flutter. And basically, it's a library, it's a package which you add to your Flutter app. And what you do is you create the model. In this case, it's Gemini 1.flash. So basically just ask Firebase Vertex AI instance to generate the model. Then you give it a prompt, as you would do like with any Gen AI, and say, write a story about a magic backpack. In this case, it's a text, but it also supports multimodal. And you can have audio files, images, I think video files probably. So a lot of things that you can do with it. And then you ask the model to generate content based on the prompt and all of the other attachments that you give it to. And it gives you the response. And as you can see, there's no API key involved, which is already very good because we don't need to expose it to the client app. And the way this works is because your project, your Flutter app is connected to your Firebase project, and it handles this API key fetch by itself on the server side. So that's why you don't even expose it to the client side, which is very cool, just by itself. But we will see even more cool things. So in a nutshell, Vertex AI SDK, it's good because it's a client-side SDK, but it doesn't expose an API key, and super easy to use and integrate. But it has its own limitations because it supports only Gemini. And if you want to use OpenAI or any other model, you can't do it through Vertex AI SDK, at least not yet, maybe someday. So if you do need to use other models, you can use Cloud Functions with or without Firebase GenKit. And yes, to repeat again, if we use different kind of providers on the client side via REST or via SDK, it is not secure because we need to provide it with an API key, and we can't use API keys on client side. Please don't. Because if someone steals your API key and just spoofs it and does a million of requests, you will have the bill if you don't have limits set in whatever provider you use, and you'll be really sad about that. So in order to shift it to the server side, but without actually doing the whole launching the whole server-side infrastructure yourself, we can do it with Firebase Cloud Functions or Firebase. It's why, but yeah. Anyway, we can do it with Cloud Functions. I'll be just calling it Cloud Functions, but keep in mind that it's Firebase Cloud Functions for Firebase. Okay, because other providers obviously also have those functions. Which basically a cloud function is a remote function hosted by the service provider, in our case Firebase, somewhere for you, which you don't need to care too much about. And what you do is you write code for a single function, for example, to generate some prompt, to some response to the prompt. Sorry. And what you can do is you can call function directly from your app, just as you would do with the backend, but this time via Cloud Functions API, and I will show you how soon. Or what's even better, Cloud Functions can listen to writes to your database. For example, when your client has written something to the database, it can listen to that, it can get triggered, do something, write the information back to the database, and this information will be streamed into your Flutter app, and your Flutter app will never even know that something happened and that there's AI involved or whatnot. You deploy those functions with a simple command, Firebase deploy. And yeah, if you use the second option, which triggers background functions, then you don't even need to do anything in your Flutter app. And if you do need to call a function, you can do it via the Cloud Functions package, like Firebase Functions, HTTPS callable, and pass it the name and the arguments that you need for the function. So basically, it's just like an API which you would use from server, but via Cloud Functions, and you don't need to do the infrastructure. And yeah, this is the example that I told you about. If an app writes something to the path messages ID in the database, the Cloud function reads the incoming message, triggers GPT API to generate response and write it to the database. And this is streamed back to the app because it listens to the messages streamed from Firestore. And this is an example of a Cloud function, which is listening to, like, it has particular callbacks, which is on document created, so it can already have a lot out of the box. So on document created to the path where messages are stored, and what you want to do is you get the data that you need and then add GPT API logic here. The problem is that this is not Dart, and we will get to it in just a second. And so the bonus is that client is unaware, if you're using Cloud Functions, that client is unaware of using GPT API or any other API for that matter. API key is safe because, again, we don't even know that we're using anything that requires an API key. You can swap or use different models remotely without ever knowing anything on the client side. You can experiment, or maybe, as we have in our apps, some models perform better for some tasks than the others. So for some, we use one model, and then for the other, we use the other one. And you can also secure it, yes, with security rules, limit access, and check, validate, and whatnot with those security rules. As I said, Cloud Functions can be written in Dart. They can be written in JavaScript, TypeScript, Go, and I think something else. I'm not sure, but with those definitely you can. And anyway, they're not Dart, so who cares? But yeah, anyway, you can still use ChatGPT, and if you already know what you want, you can say, like, this is the code in Dart. Can you translate it to TypeScript and use it like that? Or learn a new language, which is also useful because we're developers and we should not be limited to languages and frameworks and so on. And the more skills you have, the better. Or you can also marry a JavaScript developer like I did and never write a Cloud function yourself. So yeah, I write the client side and my husband writes the Cloud function side with TypeScript. Okay. This is how we would use Cloud Functions, and Firebase Genkit can help and accelerate this process because Firebase Genkit helps you to, instead of using different SDKs for each provider, like for separate libraries, it offers you a unified API where you can just specify the model, and it will, if it adheres to the, I think, OpenAI format, I'm not sure, but basically if it adheres to the regular format that all of the GenAI providers use now, it can be used in Firebase Jenkins. So you write the code, and then you can use Gemini, or you can use GPT, or you can use Claude. I'm not sure if it supports DeepSeek already or not, but basically a lot of models, just changing the model itself and the plugins, and not changing the actual code that works with the provider, which is very useful. Okay, and we already have our API key secured, but there's no such thing as too much security. Or maybe there is, but it still would be cool if we could secure our apps even more. Because, for example, with Android apps, it's harder to do on iOS, but it's very easy kind of to do with Android apps. Is what you can do. You can download the APK, decompile, add some malicious code, or remove some things that limit access to non-paying users and so on. Repackage, push it onto some provider where you can download the app, or like users can download the app, and yeah, there's nothing you can do to stop unless you use Firebase App Check. What is Firebase App Check? So Firebase App Check is another Firebase service which makes sure that requests that come to Firebase, like using the database, using the cloud functions, using any other Firebase services, and if you use Firebase heavily, this is very good in this scenario. So App Check checks that your request originates from your authentic app, which means that it has been signed with the key that you have signed it and uploaded to Google Play, and it re-signed with its own key in case of Android. And I don't know what happens in case of iOS. They're already quite secure, but I guess something can happen. And also if the device is authentic and untampered, which means it has not been rooted and there's no any other shenanigans going on. So what happens is that Flutter app, with every request to a Firebase service, sends a token generated by App Check. Firebase checks if this token is valid. If it is, it returns the response to your Flutter app. Everything is smooth and going nice. And if not, it denies the request, and the users can't do anything because the request is denied and they can't do anything. And Firebase App Check uses on Android Play Integrity API, on an iOS App Attest and Device Check. How you use it is you register it in your Firebase console, select the providers, configure the providers, and then also set it up in the app with a couple of lines of code. And yeah, if you have not added App Check from the initial version of your app, you might want to monitor for a while before enforcing it, because not all of the users will update instantly, and all of the users that have not updated to the app that uses App Check, if it's been enforced, they will get all the requests denied, and you might get a lot of bad reviews. So you don't want that. You want to monitor until the majority of requests are verified and then enforce it. But of course, if something happened and you need to enforce it right away for this safeness of your app, then you can do it too. Okay, I'll try to go faster. Are you already bored or not yet? Are you still listening? Yeah. Okay, because we still have quite some things to cover. Anyway, if you want to have even more flexibility, what you can do is you can use remote config with dynamic prompts. Like if you want to change prompts dynamically and not ship a new version of your app every time you want to change the prompt. Plus, you can do A/B testing with remote config. So what remote config is, it's JSON on steroids. Basically, it's just JSON, like I said, JSON key values stored in the cloud, in the Firebase cloud, which you can fetch in your app, and you can store all kind of information there. And you would say that you could just store it in a database, and you would be right. But remote config offers many other things. Like, okay, I'm running ahead of myself. So basically, I'll do a step back. Basically, if you want to store a prompt in remote config, we just create the parameter in remote config prompt and give it a value. Then on the Flutter app, we just get the string with the key prompt. And yes, as I was saying, remote config offers more options. For example, in our language, we're not doing this, but we could. In our language learning app, if we want our characters to be more flirty during the Valentine's Day, and like Valentine's Day can be different hours in different countries, obviously, because we live in different time zones. And instead of doing this manually and sitting for 24 hours and changing this in each time zone, we can create a condition, for example, Valentine's Day promo in Spain, limit it by daytime. apply it to the prompt, and then this prompt will be used, like the flirty prompt will be used only when this condition is true, and the default one will be used when this condition is false. And you can also do something particular for Android users or for iOS users. There's a lot of things you can do with conditions. I actually have a separate talk together with Mangirdis about remote config. So yeah, I really tried to put a lot into this presentation. So sorry if it's overwhelming. As I was saying initially, this is a holistic overview of what it takes to build your own app and what you can do. So yeah, you can research those topics deeper than on your own when you're building your apps. And the final thing, you can A/B test. For example, you want to test which model performs better, GPT or Gemini. So you create an A/B test. Say that for 50% people, the model will be GPT. For 50%, it will be Gemini. Firebase will do this automatically for you, like send different models to different people. And then after some while, you will see the results of the A/B test. I mean, what a result for A/B test is different depending on what you want. For example, you want to see how many more people convert to subscribers if you use GPT model or if you use Gemini, and this will show you because you need to set it up. Okay, and if I would be describing all of the services of Firebase that we put into the backpack, there would be not enough space. So I'll just say that we can add Firebase or any other backend as a service to our backpack. Next up is the hill of in-app payments. And as you remember, tokens equal money. And we want to not pay our own money. We want to offset this to the users, obviously, unless it's a charity app and you have a lot of money that you can spend in tokens. And in order to do that, we would need to sell it somehow in our apps. And one way is subscriptions. I think everyone knows what subscriptions are. And the problem with subscriptions is that, and in general with payments in apps, that many things can go wrong or right. There's many cases to handle, cancellations, refunds, restores, whatnot. Many things can go wrong, edge cases. And it also needs to be handled for 2 platforms at least, iOS and Play Store, and if you have web and desktop or whatnot. And there are SDKs and in general services that take away this pain for you, again, for a little bit of money, but sometimes it saves you so much more money in the end because you spend like months of handling the edge cases. And in my case, I use RevenueCat. And I use it because it has swag with cats, obviously, reason number one. But honestly, no, actually, their swag game is really good, but also RevenueCat I've used at work, and it worked perfectly fine for me, so I had no reason to switch. It's super easy to use. For example, also now they have a feature called paywalls, which you can configure on the server side. And if you configure this paywall, all you need to do is just ask RevenueCat UI present paywall if needed. If needed, means that the user doesn't have a subscription yet. And then everything happens on the paywall for you, and you just listen to the results. So super easy. And it has function like same callable functions for refunds, for restores, and many other things. So keep this in mind if you want to add subscriptions. Don't try to do it yourself. Try with some provider. It will save you a lot of time, I promise. Okay, and one more thing about Firebase is that if we use RevenueCat SDK on the client side, and we check via RevenueCat SDK that the user has premium, like just the regular Boolean flag has premium, and give it, because if it's true, give access to any premium features that we have in our app, then again, no one is stopping malicious actors as decompiling our app, setting this flag to true always, and just giving back to the users. Unless we also use AppCheck, of course, this already saves you some time, but we can add an even more extra layer of security. As usual, it's a good idea to shift its service security related things server side if you can. And with RevenueCat, you can do that by using another thing of Firebase called Firebase extensions. And basically what Firebase extensions are prepackaged solutions. And in a nutshell, it's a cloud function that someone wrote for you, and you just enable it in the console, set up some parameters that are needed for this function to work, like just via wizard, like no coding even involved, and you can use it. And in case of RevenueCat, because we have cloud functions, we can do those checks in the cloud functions, because RevenueCat writes to the database when the user has purchased the subscription, and then we can check this flag on the server side and block unauthorized operations there. And on the client side, just show the paywall. That's it. So we have like many layers of security here. Great, we have Revenue Cat in our backpack. The best part, the swamp of store publishing. So you have built the app and you're super excited that you will now finally get this app to the users, publish it, and everything will be amazing. Yeah, no. There's a reason why Revenue Cat sends those socks as swag. Apple rejected my app and all I got were these socks. Because until approximately 2024, App Store was quite notorious for being silly with rejections. They could reject your app for many, many reasons, and you would have to go through 10, 20 rejections or whatnot to get your app finally in the store. While Google Play Store was a piece of cake. It was easy to publish. There was almost no safeguards. It was super fast and straightforward, which attracted a lot of bad people. And yeah, they published malicious apps, malware, spam, scam, whatnot. Basically, there's a lot of things in Play Store which you can download and you would wish you didn't. And yeah, with Apple being notorious for rejecting from the start, there's much less of this in the App Store because they're much more strict. Play Store got into the game a little bit later on, and after starting 2024, approximately, at least from my experience, the tables have turned. And now Google Play Store said, basta, no more bad apps. We have a lot of limitations, a lot of things that will limit those bad actors from publishing their apps. Unfortunately, this also limits us as developers from publishing our apps. And for example, one of the requirements is with Play Store, if you want to publish your own app as a personal developer and you create a new account after, I think, November 2023, you will need to have at least 12 testers, and this was 20 before, at least 12 testers who have been opted in for beta testing for at least 2 weeks. So your option is to find 12 testers and do the testing for 2 weeks for an Android app, like 2 hours max from my side, or open a business account. This limitation doesn't apply to business accounts yet, I think. At least it didn't apply to my business account. So if you have a company, it's better if you register your Play Store account for a company. If not, then yeah, you'll have to find testers. But also, I'm pretty sure there are already services where you can hire those testers, but it will cost you some money. Or find and harass 12 of your friends for 2 weeks. And yes, that's the step for your app only to get into review for Play Store publishing. Then it can get rejected by Play Store. So it can be rejected for many reasons. We will discuss some of them now. And if it has been rejected, that is not that much of a problem because you can supply a new version that fixes the rejection and hopefully passes the review. If you did something bad, like something that is against the policies, they can remove your app completely. And even like if the app has already been published, they will remove it. And you will need to supply again the version that fixes the policy violations. But you can still supply a new version because there's next level, suspended by Google, which means they remove your app completely and you can't upload a new version that fixes the policy violations. Technically, you can, but you have to change the package name and register a completely new application in Play Store. And what is even worse is that suspension counts as a strike against your good standing in Play Store. And if you have too many strikes, that's it. You're terminated. Your account is terminated. And all of the accounts that are connected to this account are terminated, and all of the new accounts that you're trying to create will be terminated. It's crazy. It sounds a bit crazy, but that's true. If you get terminated once, that's the end. Most of the times, the end of your journey with Google Play Store. So that's that. It hasn't. I mean, the termination has always been so, but what is recent is that there's no official like numbers and so on, but there's a lot of cases, myself included, where after for initial releases, like when you release your new app for the first time, if it get rejected for many silly reasons, and we will review some of them now, 3 times in a row, your app gets suspended. That's it. And like, I don't even, this happened to me. I didn't know what to do. That's why not all of my apps are available on Play Store. I'm still waiting out some of the time because as far as I know, there is some time which you can wait and the suspension kind of becomes less important, but I'm not sure. There's a lot of legend going on around, not a lot of actual numbers in the documentation. So it's a guessing game and a strike game because we only know it once it actually happens. So yeah, be very careful with Play Store nowadays because App Store can reject your app for 10 times in a row, but they will not suspend it and they will not terminate your account unless obviously you do something like bad. If it's bad, when you're actually trying to do something malicious like scamming or malware and so on, of course, they will also take action. But if it's something simple like metadata, for example, you can get rejected if in the description of your app you say things like best or top or discount, things like that are not allowed. Because they're, I don't know what, they're not objective, I guess. It can't be best. Or maybe if you say best according to my mother, it will work. I'm not sure. Probably not. So I'd say avoid any kind of words that can be proved by numbers or whatnot. Also, screenshots, icon, they have to correspond to what actually your app is doing. So you can't have like gorgeous screenshots and the shitty app won't work. It will be rejected. So yeah, make sure that everything that you have in the Play Store describing your app is actually true. So yes, that's step one. Next step, what happened to me is that it kind of makes sense, but not always. Apps that are health apps, there's a special health category in the Play Store and the App Store. In my case, this was the Trigger Journal app where we were trying to find the root cause of the conditions. And you have to fill in a health declaration. Health declaration is a form where you fill in how your app handles health information, what kind of information, what it does with it. And the thing with my app is that because it asks what type of information, like sleeping information, food information, fitness information, medical information, in my app, the user decides what to log. So from one point of view, they don't even need to log anything. So in this case, we're not collecting any kind of information. On the other side, they can log everything. So we're kind of collecting everything. So we were not sure what to do. We selected other, described in details what kind of information we're collecting and this ambiguity, and we got a rejection. Rejected because not compliant and yeah. So what I would advise, if you don't have to, don't publish your app in health declaration, at least not the first release, not initially. Try to fix other issues first. Next up, permissions. If you're using permissions, different kind of permissions, be very accurate about what you do and make sure to read documentation if this permission is allowed for every kind of app, because what Play Store has now started doing is rejecting the apps that, like checking the permissions the app requires and rejecting if they think that this is not a vital function of your app. For example, from Android 15, the permission that's called use exact alarm to schedule notifications, like if you want to schedule notifications for 6 o'clock every day, you can't use this permission unless your app is alarm or a calendar. Basically, if it's like the main function of your app, they will say that this is too much of a permission if you're just scheduling notifications and you can't use that. So yeah, be very careful with the permissions that you're requesting. Broken functionality. For me, a rule of thumb is something can go wrong in your app, it will go wrong in the Play Store Reviewers app. Because I had this rejection too, because what happened is that my app, it was an edge case, if you launch the app for the very first time without internet, it won't load because it needed some data. But when do we usually open the app for the first time? Right after we download it with internet from Play Store. So I didn't even think about a case like that. I have no idea how they reproduced a case like that, but this is what happened, and I got rejected for broken functionality. And my favorite one, subscription screen. This is like always a game, guess what went wrong? Because if you submit an app with subscription, your subscription screen will be analyzed in details. And you have to have all of the details on the subscription screen, that you can cancel at any time, that it is auto-renewable, how often it renews, how long is your trial, when the trial converts, how much it costs, all of this. And also it should be in big letters, because what if the user doesn't see? And also you can't have like great tactics like hiding the X button and things like that. This will also get you rejected. So they have a documentation which describes a lot of cases that can get you rejected on your subscription screen. And they reject mine, like for no reason. As you can see, there's like a long text that says first 14 days for free, then $5 per month, auto renewable subscription built after 14 days, and then monthly. Cancel anytime. Still no, still rejection. So that actually was my last rejection. Then they suspended my app. So I never even saw the face of Android users. And it's not a malicious app. I wasn't trying to do anything bad with it. I got some silly rejections like the subscription screen, the broken functionality, the health declaration, and bye-bye. So yeah, and now I have a strike against Google Play Store standing. So good luck to me. Yes, and also if you offer premium functionality that is not available in the free version, apparently Google Play Store reviewers can't access it, like they can't start trials, and you have to know that. So you have to specify an account which gives them access to premium features. And if you don't have accounts, like in my case, it was anonymous, we have to create workarounds. And then again, you can use Firebase Remote Config. You can make sure that the Android version that is currently in review has premium access. And then when the reviewer has checked it, you can turn it back to false and and then ship it to the users. But make sure to turn it back to false, otherwise it will be just free for all of the users and not just the reviewer. As I said, suspension, it can happen if you do something wrong like from the start, if you're already trying to upload a bad app, but also it happens, as we can see here, in app experience, repeated app rejections, which in my case was 3 or 4 in a row, but I've heard people having 2 in a row, some more. I guess it depends if your app is the first version or not the first version, but yeah, be very careful. So what I suggest for Play Store is uploading a minimum unrejectable version, MOOC. This is what I call it. And it means that this app will probably have nothing, well, at least no subscriptions. I suggest no AI, no health category. Basically, as simple version as you can, because always remember that every time you upload, you have 3 tries, like 3 strikes and you're out. So if you have many things, risky things like subscriptions, health declaration, permissions, AI functionality, things like that, you're just having more chances to get rejected. So I'd say launch the minimal rejectable version, and then with each new release, add new version, like add new risky functions. So then you have 3 rejections just for that function and not for everything in your app. So yes, this is what happens. Play Store, please don't suspend my app. For App Store, though, I suggest uploading minimal viable product, because App Store gives an initial boost to new apps. So the first week after you have uploaded your app to App Store, it promotes it to the user so that you get more new users. And if you have a minimal or rejectable version which has no subscriptions, no AI, nothing, those users will not stay. So for App Store, I suggest uploading a version that you are happy with to try out your idea. So yeah, we have a checklist of things not to do, but no guarantees, like literally no guarantees, because they can reject you for many more reasons. And yeah. Okay, finally, I'll try to go super quick from this because I think we already have a lot of time. Basically, after 2018, we started seeing all of these things on the website, the cookies, notifications. And now this is not because they care about your privacy. This is because GDPR. GDPR is the data regulation policies by European Union that any digital products that handle personal data have to comply with. And this is important for us because as app developers, we also have to handle user data, and there are requirements for App Store to have a privacy policy and a terms and conditions page. And they should be as separate links, which you can follow, because you have to specify, like they can't be just in app. You have to specify them as links in your App Store, in your App Store description, and also in the settings of your application. So this is a must. And if you don't have this, you will get rejected by App Store. So just do this upfront. And also, this is not legal advice, but if you're doing analytics and you're gathering some data, even if it's anonymous data, I'd say that it's better to have terms and conditions and privacy policy on your onboarding screen so that the users that start using your app explicitly agree to these terms and conditions. And if you are using like analytics for logging personal data and also identifiable data like emails or user identifiers, which can track your users back to like their identity, even if it's not their name and surname, but just some kind of user entity in your database. You have to get their consent because of GDPR. Like, and this actually will not be enough. They have to give explicit consent, like pressing a button in a dialogue or something. So that's why my data is all anonymous, and I hope I won't have problems. So yeah, again, this is not legal advice, but if you need privacy policy, you can Google. There are many providers. I used some of them. I don't even remember which, or because this was a couple of years ago, or you can use ChatGPT because it can also generate the privacy policy and terms and conditions for you, depending on what you do with your app. So yeah, this is GDPR. What is personal data, what is not? We'll skip this. And yeah, my recommendation is a must-have in your app, in your settings, is that privacy policy, terms, conditions, also licenses for all of the open source products that you use. In Flutter, you can just call a function open licenses page. It's built into SDK, super easy. Restore purchases if you have subscriptions or any other purchases. And also if you handle, especially if you handle health data, but also if you have accounts where people actually register, you have to have an option to delete the data and delete the account from inside of the app. This is a requirement from stores. Not must, but good to have for you. Share feedback, report a bug, contact support. Fun fact, these are all the same functions. They just open email to support, and also rate the app. So yeah, we have settings and privacy policy. And next is the desert of no users. One last step is when we have finally went through the publishing, we have gone through all of the legal things, and we have our app in the store. How to help users find our apps? Well, step one, friends and family, obviously, harass them again. So then testing and then giving you feedback. That is easy. Problem is, it's not always target audience, depending on your app. Maybe they don't even need this app. Not honest feedback. They will tell you nice things that it's the best app, the most useful app, and so on. And yeah, that's not always true. It's not scalable because I don't think that any of us have millions of friends. It's physically impossible. Even if and you can have millions of followers, but they're not friends, right? So step two, App Store optimization. If you see this abbreviation on the internet, and you probably see it a lot, ASO, this is App Store optimization. It's like SEO, search engine optimization, but for apps. So basically what happens is our user goes to the App Store and wants to learn Spanish. And in order for our app to show up when the user types learn Spanish, we need to do App Store optimization. This means the information that we fill in our App Store and Google Play Store pages. And there's a lot of information. It's the title. This is the most important because this is what App Store ranks the most. Secondary subtitle. Icon is important because if users don't like your icon, they will not even open your page. Screenshots are super important because this is also the first time the potential user interacts with your app. And if they don't like the screenshots, they will also scroll and open another app. Then there's many more metadata, description, keywords, localizations, and other. And in here, keywords are super important because here you can use everything that didn't fit into the subtitle and title. And this will help you to rank for those keywords when users search for it. And also life hack, use localized keywords. For example, this is a Polish page, and the keywords are also in Polish. Because people in Poland usually search in Polish, not in English, right? Makes sense. So yeah, this way it can help you rank in local app stores. About ASO, you can learn in many ASO blogs. Like there's millions of them. Just Google ASO and you'll find all of them. Keyword research. Also many apps. One that I found thanks to Sebastian, because he recommended in his newsletter, is Astro. And it's one of the cheapest ones, at least compared to what I found, because they start from, I don't know, 200 per month, which is a lot for ASO, but it makes sense if you already have a lot of paying users. But this is just 100 per year, which is much better. And it's really helpful because you can research keywords, get their popularity, understand how difficult it is to rank for these keywords, like if it's a very saturated market, and see how you rank and if you're growing or not growing and what you can do about it. Final step, marketing, which is a whole new world for us as developers, because for me, definitely, I know how to build and I have no idea how to sell. So this is something I'm learning. And what I've learned, there is free options like build in public, share your ideas, share how you're building, and you will often build a community of people who are willing to try your product. And it's also a great way to just share with the world what you're doing, get instant feedback, and build relationships. Even if it's like not straight marketing, it's still really cool to meet really cool people. Social media, create social media for your apps and post content about your apps there. Forums like Reddit, even Facebook, wherever your potential users spend their time, you also need to spend your time there, and then you can kind of advertise your app there. Content creation, like write blogs, create videos, whatnot about your app, about building it, or again, targeting the potential users, depending on what you want to do, and doing app store optimization. And then there's obviously a lot of things you can do for money, such as store ads. You can pay Apple and Google for promoting your application, social media ads, sponsored posts, influencers marketing, which I think can be a very useful thing because influencers usually have a trust from their audience. And when they're recommending a product, you can get a lot of users, but also it can flop because it depends on the influencers. Maybe no one trusts them. Have to be careful with selecting. And of course, many more things that I myself still need to find out. Finally, Avaz is a product market fit. And what is product market fit is when you have a lot of happy users, a lot of downloads, very good rating, minus 0.1 for competitors, and a lot of pretty money. So I'm still on my way. Hopefully, I will reach my product market fit with all of my apps, or at least with some of my apps. And maybe next time, I will give you a presentation on how to make a lot of pretty money and not just build apps. Okay, yeah, this was our journey. This was our backpack. I know I spent a lot of time. Sorry about my book. Best question wins, but you can also get it on Amazon or Pact. You can check out my apps at bbapps.dev. You can subscribe to my newsletter to read even more about from me, how I build my apps on Substack. And I will be very grateful if you follow this QR code and give me feedback on this talk, except saying that it was too long. I think I already got that. So yeah, please give feedback. It takes only 2 minutes because literally 2 questions, and it will be very helpful for me. Thank you.
We have some time for questions. Is there any question? I have a question about the API keys. You mentioned that Firebase prevents from exposing the API key, and I'm interested. I'm wondering how it prevents, because it still communicates with the backend, so it still has some kind of credentials on board for mobile.
Yes. So basically, you first connect your product to Firebase.
Yes.
And this information is public technically, but then if you secure it with app check, as I said, even if someone manages to recompile your app, they will not have your signing keys, because signing keys is something that you store locally and it never like. Have you ever published an app to Play Store?
Yeah.
So yeah, basically signing keys, you know what it is. And so if it's been signed with a different API key, the request will not go through.
So the real deal is the app check.
App check, yes, but also, but the API key is not sent back to the service because the Gemini itself, the Vertex AI, Gemini slash, are doing their thing on the server. They're communicating with, I think it's called Google Secret Manager, where you can store different secrets related to your like API keys related to your products, and then they communicate between themselves, and it never goes to the app because the app only gets response from the API of the Vertex AI SDK.
Yeah, I mean, my main point that in the default implementation, it was a little bit probably harder to
But still very,
become
yes,
man in the middle.
yes.
But still possible. So probably app check gives an additional like.
App check and make sure that if you like, even if you get hold of the app, that if it's not the authentic app, it will just not go through, even if you have the credentials. Yep.
You talked about the Firebase integration with Revenue Cat, so to enable the
Yes.
premium features there. How does it work if you are offline in that case?
I'm not sure that you can purchase a subscription if you're offline.
No, not if you purchase in that case, but once you already purchase it, when you want to access the premium features, do you need to access also the backend to enable them?
It depends on your implementation. In my case, yes, because I need internet for main functionality, like talking to GPT. So no internet, not possible to work. But Firebase in general supports offline mode too. It has some caching mechanism. I have not created offline first apps yet, so I can't give you practical insights, but it's possible. But then again, you still have this risk of handling the has premium flag on the client side.
Okay.
Now that you have all of the view of what is this journey, what could you say to younger Daria? Just one suggestion.
One suggestion: have fun. It will be hard, but I hope it will be worth it. So, just having fun is important because this is a lot of stress too, especially when you're starting out and you're not sure if your product is right, if anyone needs it, and so on. It is a very stressful journey, but also important to have fun in the process of it. And it's also very rewarding to have your own product, something that you built that you can share with the people, and which is not under NDA if you worked with some companies. Yeah.
Yeah, in your experience, if you compare how users accept like these AI apps with no AI apps, I would say.
Which is easier? Or-
Yeah, how the user receive these apps, like they like it, they have more.
Let's put it this way. I think most of the users don't go for AI per se. They go for the value that your app brings. If it's with AI, cool. If it's without AI, also cool. So if your app is valuable, that's what they care more about. In general, AI topic and words is controversial nowadays because some people are like, oh, this is bullshit. We'll cut this out. And some are like, it's super cool. It will solve everything. Probably it's somewhere in the middle. And depends on the person. But for example, with language learning, it's super cool because it's something that algorithms can't offer, which is like speech and actual kind of thinking. Well, it's not real thinking, but still, and it mimics real life communication really well. So it's not something that you can swap for non-AI solution.
Do you think these AI like you using in your titles attract more users, or is like more marketing, or is
I'm not sure yet. I'm experimenting with this. From what I've seen from keyword research, most people don't put AI as their search. They just search for something like learn Spanish, learn English, things like that, and not how to. So they're searching for something they want to be able to do and not how they want to be able to do it. So yeah, but again, I guess it depends on the niche too. Yes.
How you expect to keep your own identity features, some kind of special features in your application in this AI era? Because if we're having the access to the AI, probably gives an ability to easily replicate the functionality of the app. And in this case, because ChatGPT, Gemini will sell anyone the API access, no problem. So it's the matter of putting the icons in place. So how you're planning to compete in this highly competitive market, which unique features you are not probably thinking about, or to distinguish your app among other competitors?
That's a great question. Still have to find answers to this question because it's a constant iteration. What makes my app unique? Why my app and not my competitor's app? I'm constantly testing my competitors' apps, so keep in mind. So I'm constantly testing. One thing that I noticed, people will definitely stay for like good UX if your app is flawless in like reaching their target. They will stick. But in my case, for example, for native Ball, from what I've heard from users, they really like our custom characters. I have not seen it in other AI. Right? Oh my god, I've said this word so many times now that it feels silly when I say it out loud. So yeah, custom characters and in general characters is something that attracts my users. But also, what I think is from my observation in general, how products work nowadays is that they build strong communities. Like we have Duolingo, which is like very good at marketing, and they have a whole community around their brand. And I think if we want to actually scale, you have to build a community around your product. You have to talk to your users. You have to consistently be in touch with your users and build a following. Like one thing in 2025 that you need to think about is AI, and another is social media, because that's where people are, even if you don't like it. Even if I don't like it, I already have TikTok. Just started this year and only for my apps. But yeah, you need to talk to people and you need to make actual people love your product. I think that's the way to build community.
Yeah, and then the follow-up question, you mentioned the app responsiveness and nice
Correct.
animations and all things. In this case, I would ask a tricky question. Did you already disable the impeller on Android?
No. I'll be honest, Android is second citizen in my pipeline. As an indie developer, from what I've noticed, most of the paid users come from iOS. Probably because it's harder to get a free app on iOS. It's much easier to get a free app on Android. That's why Android users are used to free apps, and they're much more reluctant to pay for something that they can get for free. So, yeah, I have not yet disabled the color.
Yeah, because I heard the like little bit controversial feedback about the impeller.
I actually only learned very recently that it is on by default for Android starting 3.27. I learned it, I think, after I have already pushed an app to the store.
Yeah.
I still have not getting any bad reviews, so hopefully it works fine. But yeah. Yeah.
How do you decide your prices? Do you A/B test them, or do you offer a lifetime subscription also?
Lifetime, no. There's no way I can offer a lifetime subscription for an AI based app because, as I said, we pay for tokens. It's always have to like match. I will A/B test, and also what I want to A/B test is not just subscription price, but different monetization models, like in single time in-app purchases, which can unlock some limited features. Yes, like tokens, kind of like that. So yeah, this is something that I'm going to experiment with. And also, what I've learned on the internet is you really need to adapt prices to the country. For example, it's for in Brazil, like no one's going to pay this price because in general, like salaries are lower and so on. I think I've heard the term like the burger price, depending on the burger price. In the country, like there's some scale that you need to multiply your subscription to make it possible for users there to buy. This is advanced strategies that I still have yet to implement, but yeah, it's something I'm going to do.
Revenue can help with that, or you have to set up your database with pricing?
I'm not sure. I don't know how to answer this question. I'm not sure. I definitely know that you can set it in the App Store itself, so it's like not in the code base, but in the App Store console. But probably Revenue Cat maybe has some API, not API, but like UI where you can set it for different stores, but not sure. No promises. Yeah.
How do you decide which app to work on next? Like, do you decide based mainly on marketability, or you feel a need something that you have a passion, or because therapy I can see as marketability, but also the bunny search is more like something that you can believe in.
Yeah. So all of the apps that I have built so far are based on my own problems. I have a lot of problems because I have a huge backlog of apps to create. But yeah, they all solve my own problems. It started with Bunny Search because I only buy cosmetics that are cruelty-free. And the problem with cruelty-free is that what is cruelty-free? There's like many things that need to be true for it to be considered cruelty-free. So we built an aggregator that helps to make this choice. Same with habit trackers. When I was trying to track habits, what was in the store did not work for me, so I built my own. Same for like Trigger Journal, and then with Native Poll, I started as an idea and as an implementation a couple of years ago as a like proof of concept and only recently launched in the stores. Because when ChatGPT became a thing, I knew that it will be a game changer in language learning, because this is the closest that comes to actual communication where you don't have to bother your Spanish speaking friends. So yeah, basically they rise from my own experience. That's why I also have a lot of more digs I hope to build.
I'm sorry, we can't do more questions. Yeah, thank you very much, Daria.
Sorry, can we have one more second?